Imagine a world where the secrets of the night, maybe hidden messages and shadows, even like the subtle intentions of others, what if they were just laid bare right before your very eyes? What if the world you think you see right now is only, well, a tiny fraction of what's truly out there? And what if just maybe someone or maybe something already can see more? There's chatter, whispers online about these fantastical concepts like infrared contact lenses, stuff that supposedly lets you see in the dark, even with your eyes closed. Sounds like something ripped straight out of a sci-fi thriller, right? But what if it's not just fantasy? Welcome to the cool, weird, and possible. Today we're diving deep into this really fascinating question. Is human infrared vision just, I don't know, a figment of our imagination or maybe a hidden ability just waiting to be unlocked?